Hi, welcome to the initial Educator series. This is September 2020, and the topic is family engagement. My name is Jan Wickbold. I am an educator of over 30 years of experience and now a CESA 11 educational consultant. My email is there. Feel free to email me at any time if you have questions about this presentation. Our agenda for today includes family engagement, educator effectiveness connection, and an individual challenge action plan called an ICAP. So let's start with family engagement. What is the connection to educator effectiveness? Educator effectiveness started in about 2014, and it's a statewide teacher evaluation system. There are two frameworks. Your district has adopted one of these. The first one is a DPI model. And if that is adopted by your district, you are looking at Domain 4, Professional Responsibilities, has connections with the Domain 4C called Communicating with Families. If your district adopted the CESA 6 model called EP, then your performance standard is professionalism. And that 6.2 says that we build positive and professional relationships with parents or guardians through frequent communication concerning students' progress. So why is it important? Dr. Karen Mapp, one of the co-authors, A Powerful Partnership, says that parent participation is the leading predictor. Sometimes we think those other factors are important, but actually parent participation is a predictor of student success. So examine your own belief system. Probably has something to do with your past. So I want you to think back for a moment to your childhood and your own school experience. How was your family connected or not connected to your school and educational experience? Did your family have high expectations? Did they help you when you needed it? Were they coming to some of your activities? What are your beliefs? And then what fears, hesitations, or apprehensions do you have about the work? And what barriers do you personally have to overcome? Are you fearful of demanding parents? Or are you thinking you don't know how to organize your time to make it fit into your day? So thinking about the benefits of partnering with families might help convince you that it's worth spending the time. It can really help in times of isolation, and it can help you to see families as partner for you in this work and to improve your student outcomes. There are 4 essential core beliefs from another one of Karen Mapp's books, Beyond the Bake Sale, and they are that all families have hopes and dreams. They want the best for their children, and they have the capacity to support their children's learning in whichever way they can. And then families and school staff are equal partners. That's really important. We're going to talk a little more about that. And then that responsibility of reaching out is basically on you or your school system. Let's talk about that equal partner, and I'm going to use a football metaphor. That's okay if you don't understand football or don't watch it. I'll explain it. So there's 2 parts, the offense part of the team, which moves the football down the field and scores touchdowns. And then there's the defense, which has the job of stopping the opponent's offense from scoring. So can you imagine if these 2 parts of the same team didn't respect each other or the skills they brought to the task at hand? Imagine if the offensive team said, hey, we do all the work and we score all the points and we don't really need you. Do you think that team would be successful? Probably not. We know that it takes the defense to stop the opponent from scoring, plus the offense to score points. That makes for a successful team. We have to think of that equal relationship the same way we think about family partnering or family engagement. So there are 4 types of partnerships that Karen mentions in Beyond the Bake Sale. It can go all the way from a fortress school that's locked down or come only if we call, and then an open door school to finally the ultimate partnership school, where engaging families is actually a commitment and part of the school's mission and vision. We learned last year with our shutdown with COVID-19 regulations that it's really important to have that positive relationship with parents. Here's some possible action steps you could take. The first contact, that welcome phone call. Use that as an opportunity to learn more about your child or about their child and your student so you can become the best teacher possible. And then find out what their parents' hopes and dreams are for their child. And find out the best time to contact them and what time of day and how to contact them. You might consider home visits were done in the past, but how could that be done virtual? And remember, we're doing more listening than we are talking. And then, of course, the back to school night or open house that has traditionally been held, what might that look like in 2021? And how could we use that opportunity to form partnerships with our families? So here's your individual challenge action plan. You have a district mentor that we want you to connect with and just discuss how they plan to engage their families this year. And then thinking about one idea that you want to try, test it out with your mentor. Have your mentor give you some feedback and some insight into what you're planning. So that's your action plan. And then we're going to meet online for a live virtual discussion on September 28th at 1 o'clock. So be prepared to share your experience.
Welcome to the second section of this initial Educator series video. My name is Trent Rasmussen, one of the consultants here at CESA 11, and I'm excited to share with you a few ideas about professional growth. We'll be talking about educator effectiveness and drawing some connections there, and I'll share with you 6 different focus areas that you might have in your professional growth journey at different points in your career. And I'll also share one additional challenge action plan for you at the end of this segment. So let's think about professional growth a little bit here. And I just want to start off with the idea that no educator, even at the point of retirement, says, I have arrived, I have gotten it all figured out. So as you're in the early stages of your career, just be encouraged by that. That growth really is a process. And just like we want our students to have a growth mindset, that's what we need to be thinking about as professionals too. In educator effectiveness, as Jan said, there are 2 different models, and your district is likely using one of those 2. If you're in the DPI model using the Danielson framework for teaching, you've got a couple indicators here or components, with 4A being reflecting on teaching and 4D growing and developing professionally. These fit hand in hand right with the strong model for the CESA 6 schools, with reflecting, assessing, and growing professionally. And both of these models are grounded in research. So that's why you're going to see a lot of consistencies between those 2. We've got some resources here that if you want to learn more about the models that you are working within, these are great places to learn more. The SLO and PPG are going to be a big part of your educator effectiveness each year. The SLO stands for Student Learning Outcome. And what this means is you set a goal at the beginning of the year based off of an assessment that you want to get your group of students to this particular proficiency level. So you document measurement of that progress 3 times during the year. And at each data point, you are thinking about how to strategically use that data to improve your teaching that leads to improved student learning. There's a collaboration component here between yourself as a teacher with a colleague or colleagues, depending on how your school sets this process up, and also with your evaluator. So the idea here is that we all want to work together to help students learn more. Your PPG or your professional practice goal is something that you determine, and it is something that is not required to align with the SLO, but it makes sense that if you think an SLO that you set is important enough to focus on it all year long, that a professional practice goal should support that student learning outcome process. It also helps when you have observations from your evaluator to provide more focus, because you are trying to develop a particular skill set. Like, for example, one of my most impactful PPGs was when I learned about facilitating student-led discussions. There's also a link down here on the bottom of the slide about SLO guidance on the DPI website that walks you through the whole process, as well as the components of a quality SLO. I wanted to share with you 6 professional growth focus areas. The first one is the curriculum that you're using. While it seems like that might be something that doesn't need to be in your professional growth plan, research shows, which I've got linked here, that understanding your curriculum very well and how the standards you're expected to teach and students are expected to learn, about how they're embedded and connected to that curriculum, is a very strong way to spend your professional learning time. I also want to encourage you to keep your resources focused. You'll be able to find instructional materials all over the internet related to your the course or grade level that you're teaching. So keep it focused, and the more simple that you have it, the more that your creativity and authenticity as a teacher will be able to come out. Secondly, you will have some school-based professional development that your administration will be leading. Definitely want to engage in that so that your school is building some shared knowledge and shared understanding, shared language that you are then applying in your work with students. I would also encourage you to ask questions and listen closely to the veteran teachers in your school building, and find out who those teacher leaders are that can provide you a positive, progressive view on how to grow as a professional. Another way to connect and grow as a professional is to join some organizations that are related to your grade level and content areas. These professional organizations are at the state and national level and are a great way for you to connect and network with folks in a broader range beyond your school. And it's a great way to stay up to date with the latest and greatest within your discipline. John Hattie's research is the next professional growth area that I would ask you to consider focusing on. John Hattie's research is described as visible learning because his research, that is a meta-analysis of over 80,000 educational studies, condenses it all into effect sizes. So if we take something like formative assessments, we can see how powerful of a learning strategy that is as compared to something that might be more or less powerful. But the website is linked down there on the bottom of your slide, and that is a great way to get a feel for what good strategies are and what are not. The fifth one that I would point out is to pick a book. Have a book of the year, read it, reread it, study it, apply it. I would really encourage you to do a book as opposed to just surfing social media and finding lots of ideas, because books encourage you to really reflect and slow down on your thinking. And as you apply those ideas in the book, you'll really start to make some rich improvement. And the last thing building off of that is your teaching philosophy. Ask yourself, what matters to you? What is your vision? And how can you continuously improve each day, each month, each year? Make it an ongoing process to reflect and think about how you can grow in your work. Because like I said at the beginning, we never fully arrive. So I want to share this quote with you as we wrap up our discussion of professional growth. Parker Palmer, in the book The Courage to Teach, said, "Good teaching cannot be reduced to technique. Good teaching comes from the identity and integrity of the teacher." So as you think about who you are and how you communicate that to your students and bring your authentic self into your classroom, that's where all of these professional learning ideas that you're going to hear throughout your career can really come to fruition in your work. And the integrity piece is really about always being focused on doing what's best for the kids. That's a phrase you'll hear a lot, but it is definitely something you really want to take to heart. So for your individual challenge action plan, what we'll ask you to do is, again, talk with your district mentor about engaging with families, but then we're also going to ask you to discuss with your mentor what their professional growth plan has been and what it looks like in this new school year, because things are definitely changing out there. So we want you to be prepared to share your ideas on our online discussion on September 28th. Be prepared to share what you learned from your mentor. Also on September 28th, we just want to remind you that you will be getting a tech tip from us, some intellectual swag, and we'll also be sharing a classroom management tip. Pick this image right here because classroom management is a messy process, which is why we want to make that an ongoing support piece for you in this series. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we hope to see you online September 28th, and have an excellent start to your school year.